Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to another stream. So I'm on the train to Baltimore right now just to test out my route for work. I actually start my internship tomorrow. And in the meantime, I have some time on the train. I think about 45 minutes, maybe even an hour until I get to Baltimore. So I think I should have a decent amount of time to go over some flashcards here. So, just without further ado, let's get into it. What are the 5 factors that Burton Maykill thinks contributes to analysts not making great predictions about future growth? So this is a flashcard I remember I got yesterday. I didn't stream it, but I think the first idea was that you have a lot of predictability or unpredictability about the future. Second is that analysts, some of them tend to make mistakes and they don't really care about that. Third, the actual stocks that they're covering may recognize revenue in a way that is a bit misleading, or maybe doing some other things to their accounting statements in order to paint a picture that isn't actually true. Fourth, the analysts themselves could be promoted to some type of marketing or PM role. And then fifth, Burton Maykill thinks that there's conflict of interest related to a lot of the sell side analysts and investment banks like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and their investment banking arm, where their clients are usually the ones the analysts are actually rating. So there might be a conflict of interest there. Analysts tend to overweight buy ratings a lot, so that could be an explanation as to why. Nice. Alright, let's see. How is the stream going? Okay, yeah. I'm streaming on my hotspot right now, so it probably isn't the best, but it'll do for now. So what is a risk premium supposed to measure? I think the idea of a risk premium really is how much extra return are you receiving for extra risk you're taking. We're trying to estimate the 5-year risk-free rate. Will the following returns be a good representation? So, return on a 60-day treasury bill, return on a 5-year treasury note, semi-annual coupon payments, return on a 5-year treasury note, no coupon payments. I think probably number 3. So number 3 here is a bit of a more long-term. It matches the 5-year risk-free rate, and the maturities are the same here, and there are no coupon payments. So that just means there's no payments or annuity-like payments in the form of a coupon that gets paid out to the bondholder. And so the reason why in this case is because if you were to think about a coupon payment and the yield to maturity for some semi-annual coupon paying bond, I think that yield to maturity is an assumption that the coupon payments you receive, you're able to reinvest them at the same exact rate, which is the yield to maturity. So I think it's the assumption that you're able to invest your coupons at your discount rate or the yield to maturity. So there's a bit of an ambiguity there because term structures of interest rates change. That's just another way of saying that yield curves change over time. We've seen yield curves jump from, I think, maybe 1%, even 0.5% yield for 10-year treasury notes early 2021, jump all the way to, I think now it's 4, maybe even 5% 10-year treasury yields. So just within the span of 1 to 2 years, you could see that a lot of these yield to maturities have changed drastically. So there's a bit of an ambiguous return schedule there, and so the return on a 5-year treasury notes with no coupon payments, that is 100% guaranteed you are going to get your expected value. Yeah, okay, that's good. For firms that have positive net working capital, can they consistently have negative changes in working capital, meaning that they reduce the working capital every quarter/year? This seems like it's, not real. Because, okay, let's say you do have some positive net working capital, so that's current assets minus current liabilities. I think in this case, when I mean negative changes in working capital, I wonder if I mean current assets, or do I just mean net working capital, where it's current assets minus current liabilities? But regardless, this just means that if you have positive net working capital, you just have more cash, inventory, accounts receivable than, let's say, accounts payables. So you're really financing your business through equity or sales. If you have negative working capital, that usually means that you're financing your business through supplier credit, where you're buying things without paying for them, and buying things without paying for them allows you to sell and then use the money that you've sold in order to pay off your suppliers. So I think that's the kind of concept. But I think in the case of net working capital, yeah, you can, I think, consistently have negative changes in net working capital. That's maybe if you completely shift your business strategy so that instead of financing your business through your own equity, so income and profit that you've earned, you can finance your business through supplier credit, and that can result in consistent negative changes in net working capital. Net working capital. Yeah, I guess, I wonder if net working capital, same. Okay, so there's, yeah, a bit more. It seems like
Riverdale Park, exit towards the front of the train only. The train called Riverdale.
Okay, so it seems like working capital can have multiple
Bus train
definitions.
stops at Riverdale.
So it could be possible that a company does have negative working capital if it decides to finance its business, shifting shift from financing its operations with equity. So this is profit.
Next stop, College Park, exit toward the front of the train on between cars 1 and 2 College Park.
So it is possible that a company decides does something like net working capital. So that's a shift from financing with equity to supplier credit. Okay. What does Burton Mikhail say that a firm's financial statement is like? So I think he said it's something like a bikini, where it's revealing something interesting, but also what it's hiding is even more important. I think I misquoted it. What it reveals is interesting, but what it conceals is vital. Okay. What is the retention ratio? Oof. Okay. I think retention ratio could be the measure of how much of earnings is a company going to keep within the company. So when you think about how much they're actually going to keep within the company, there's dividends, maybe even stock buybacks that a company can kind of pay out to shareholders. I think maybe dividends more so than stock buybacks. I think that's something that you can kind of consider as money that's kept within the company. But with dividends, you're paying those out to shareholders. So you can take, let's say, the dividends divided by the dollar amount of dividends paid out divided by the total income. That's kind of your dividend payout ratio. And you could take 1 minus your dividend payout ratio and to get your retention ratio.
Stops at College Park.
Okay. What is a wafer in the context of semiconductors? So a wafer, I think, refers to a really pure substance, usually a semiconductor substance. I think the most common one is silicon. They're usually just these really circular shapes of silicon, and eventually these wafers go through a manufacturing process. I think there's something called doping that somehow polarizes the actual semiconductor material itself. I kind of forgot what the scientific what's the science behind polarization. I think it has to do something with restructuring the atoms, especially the valence electrons for the elements, and somehow maybe crystallizing it even. I could be wrong. I'm going to have to create some flashcards for that, go over my notes a little bit. But these wafers are kind of the fundamental material for a lot of the semiconductors we use today. Can working capital be negative? If so, what does it imply? Yeah, working capital can be negative. We just talked about it before. It means that you're financing your operations using supply credit. It's like no one knows this. Yeah, so you're using supplier credit to finance your operations instead of using I was just lost in thought. But you're using supplier credit instead of financing your business with your own equity.
extension style POs. Greenbelt.
Current liabilities is greater than current assets. Yeah, so that means your accounts payable is greater than whatever cash inventory or accounts receivable. Okay. What are the 2 conditions for an investment to be risk-free? Ooh, I think the one condition is that you're guaranteed to receive the cash flows that are promised. Right, so you know the cash flows that you're going to receive, and you're guaranteed to receive those cash flows. I think those are the 2 conditions. Yeah, default risk. There's no certainty of being paid back. Okay, yeah, I'll take that. How's value defined with the DCF valuation? I think all that is really is usually just some type of cash flow measure. So it's just the present value of your future expected cash flows. Okay. Discounted back at the rate that reflects the riskiness of the cash flows. Discounted back at a rate that reflects the riskiness of those cash flows. Okay. Those cash flows. Okay, so who are the authors of Introduction to Econometrics? What do they do? I think James Stock and Mark Watson. James Stock, I forgot who does who, but I know both of them are really industry-leading, academic-leading economists. They both study economics and I think statistics, so I think they're experts in their field, especially in the field of econometrics, where they kind of have to blend the 2 fields together. They're both professors of economics. One's at Princeton, one's at Harvard. I forgot which one is at which. But James Stock is at
Greenbelt Station, all doors
Harvard
are open.
professor.
Watch the step when next to there's a gap between the train and platform. Greenbelt not arriving, all doors are open.
Likes to research macroeconomics, economic policy, and climate economics. Okay. Okay, so James Stock was Harvard, Mark Watson was Princeton. Okay. So where does the Yangtze River flow from into? What is it called in Chinese? So this is Changjiang, and I think the Yangtze River is below the Yellow River. So this flows from Tibet directly to the, I think, South China Sea. The sea between Japan and China. East China Sea. Alright. Just the longest river in Asia. So, yeah, I think this right here is Tibet. It flows through, I think this is maybe Sichuan. Once you start to get here, I don't exactly remember what these provinces are. Okay, so this is the East China Sea. Yeah, I'm gonna put that again. Oh, book chipboard, chapter 3. Yeah, so this right here is just a silicon wafer. This is what we were looking at earlier. I think this is a pure form of silicon. Put a chip. Okay. This is just a present value approach.
Next stop is Mercury.
Yeah, so just a present value approach, I think, is the idea of treating a company as if it were 100% equity financed. So that means it has no debt, and trying to estimate present value of a 100% equity finance business plus the dollar amounts of I think your debt shield that you would have So the debt shield, I believe, is the tax deductibleness, or the tax shield that you would have. That interest reduces the amount of taxes that you actually pay because it lowers your overall net income.
Next station stop is Monkrug.
Okay, so this is the idea of comparing your weighted average cost of capital, which is usually how more people, I think in investment banks, value companies, but the adjusted present value approach tries to estimate the actual dollar value of benefits and cost of debt. Okay. So the value of the business is equal to the value of business with 100% equity financing plus the value of your expected tax benefits and then subtracting any bankruptcy costs. Yeah, so this is like all super conceptual. I really should try to I should really try to actually go through an example of this, but it's going to take some time, so I'll just do some flashcards for now. What is intrinsic value defined by Damodaran? I think intrinsic value is if you were to have an all-knowing model or an all-knowing analyst that can estimate all of the future cash flows perfectly, all of the growth rates perfectly, that's the value that the company would have. So we want to mimic the all-knowing analyst. What is supplier credit? So supplier credit, I think, is the idea of allowing you to buy things from someone without actually having to pay for it. And so this, I think, can become really powerful for retailers or companies that have a pretty extensive supply chain. They don't actually need to pay their suppliers for getting an item. And this can be really, really helpful when you have a negative cash conversion cycle. So that's the idea of how quickly can you turn, I think, your raw materials or a product into cash. So if you're, let's say, a bicycle manufacturer and you have a negative cash conversion cycle, or a bicycle retailer,
Bus train stops at Monkrug.
so that means you're able to sell your bikes and get them for cash before you even paying for the bike itself to sell. So let's say that you have to buy, as a retailer, your bike from a wholesaler, but that wholesaler lends you or sells you the bike, but you have to pay them back in 30 days. But you're immediately able to sell your bike within, let's say, 7 days, and then collects all of the sales from your customers within another 7 days. So you're taking 2 weeks to sell off all of your inventory, but you haven't even paid for it. That's the idea of supply credit. And I think with companies, they use this to really grow and expand their businesses without actually having to use any of their own money. Without needing large amounts of capital.
Next stop, Lower Main Street.
Okay. Using a DCF model should assets with high predictable cash flows of higher value compared to assets assets with low volatile cash flows. Why? So when using a DCF model, right, so assets with high and predictable cash flows should usually have higher value compared to assets with low and volatile cash flows. Because with the high and predictable cash flows, so you have more present value or higher future value of your cash flows, and also a lower discount rate because cash flows are less risky. So you have two things working for you that will increase the value of your company.
Extension style POs. Laurel.
What is a wafer in the context of semiconductors? So in the context of semiconductors, we said that wafers are pure, refined materials of some type of semiconductor elements. Silicon's the most common one, and these guys are used in the semiconductor manufacturing process. Pure thin slice around some semiconductor element. Okay. Okay. $14. Yeah, I think the acquired one is something about Hagedorn, and he was the founder of Nordisk. Hans Christian Hagedorn. He is the founder of Nordisk, the second half of Novo Nordisk, and I think was one of the pioneers of insulin. Yeah. Okay, that was quick and easy, but let's go back to books. So what is a province-level administrative division in China? What are the different classifications for province-level administrative divisions? 2024, how many province-level divisions were there? Okay, I'm going to try my best to remember this, but I think this province-level administrative division in China, these are the highest non-federal level administrative regions or governments in China. So let me reword that. These guys are the highest level of governmental authority that isn't at the federal or national level. So that's the province level administrative division. What are the different classifications for province level administrative divisions? So I think there's 4. So there's 4 unique types. You have your provinces, you have your autonomous regions. I think that's Xinjiang and Tibet. You have your city-states or municipal governments. Municipal city-states. I think that's what they're called. I think last one could be economic development zones. I'm not entirely sure. So I think in terms of province level administrative divisions, I want to say there's 29. I don't know, that's just a number that I remember. Let's see. 34. Oh, where are the reds? Oh, Hong Kong. Special Administrative Region. So provinces, so the yellow. Autonomous regions are the green. Municipalities, purple, and special.
Around that Lower Main Street, that's the only way you see the conductors between cars 1 and 2.
That's it, it's just a wafer.
Lower.
It's thin slice of pure silicon. Shit.
Bus train stops at Laurel.
So, where does the Yellow River flow from and to in China? What is Yellow River in Chinese? Yellow River flows from, I think, also Tibet or Xinjiang, but it flows to the top at the Gulf of China. I think that's closer to Manchuria than the East China Sea, which is more closer towards Shanghai and I think Japan. So Yellow River in Chinese then is Huanghe. Tibet, Tsinghua. Okay. Or it's the Gulf of China, Bohai Sea. So yeah, this is right. And this is Manchuria, I believe.
Next stop is
Inner Mongolia. Okay. So where does the Yangtze River flow from and to? What is it called in Chinese? Chanjiang. It flows from the Tibet all the way to the East China Sea. And I think this is the longest river in Asia. That's oof. Yeah, I forgot how to say this in Chinese. So I have to see if. Alright, yeah. I'm at 11% soon, so I'm gonna probably end the stream because I don't think I'll be able to navigate around the city of Baltimore without my
Next station
phone.
stop is Savage.
Okay, yeah, once I get to the next station, I'll probably end the stream here. The North China Plain, this is a region within northeast China. I think that 50% of the entire country of China lives within this region. It's kind of this basin that's has fertile land, and I want to say it is located between the Yellow and Yangtze River. So Yellow's on top, Yangtze's on the bottom, and it's kind of the region that's enclosed by this river. In China, I think something like Pingmu. So north is, I think, Bay. So Bay, Pingmu. Let's see. Birthplace of ancient China. Okay, so it is past the Yangtze River, it seems like. Right here. Okay. In and around the Yellow River, south of Manchuria, situated below Inner Mongolia. What is a bubble? So, this is Ray Dalio's idea of navigating big debt crises. When we think about a bubble, he usually defines it as whenever you're taking on more debt to service more debt, or taking on more debt to service existing debts. Or it could be the idea that you have expectations that prices growth is going to last forever. Combination of unrealistic expectations what is a bubble a combination of? Okay. Unrealistic expectations and reckless lending. Alright, let's see that. What is ENIAC? Okay, so I think that ENIAC was actually the first general purpose programmable computer. And this is developed by some researchers at the University of Pennsylvania. I think it was used to help support the war effort during World War II. And it was this massive mainframe that had these little vacuum tubes to serve as switches. I think those switches were used to control the flow of electricity.
No, I'm not savage. The only way you could conduct is between cars 1, 2, and 4, and 3.
And
Station.
I think you needed to do that in order to control how the computer did its computations. Project risk, I think this is the idea of firm-specific risk when valuing a company, and you're really just focusing on idiosyncratic risk here. Maybe it's risk that you forecasted the demand or supply for your project wrong. I think that's probably the biggest risk there. Customers. How can one estimate the risk-free rate for investments denominated in a currency that is used by a nation/sovereign government that has a risk of default? So maybe this is something like the country of Germany, I think, or even Argentina. I think they defaulted at some point. But what you could do is maybe take a...
Next stop is Dorsey.
Okay. You can maybe take a company that has really pristine credit in the country and use their discount rate to discount the risk, or you could use their discount rate as the risk-free rate. Maybe even a lookup table for the credit ratings of certain countries and their associated credit spreads for, let's say, AAA or AA or single A bonds, single A credit ratings. You could also, I think, do something with interest rate parity. I don't know exactly what that is. I want to say it has something to do with comparing the interest rates between two different types of currencies, but I'm not entirely sure. Oh, so use the rate they pay on long-term borrowings in the local currency minus some spread. Account for the discount. So I would probably say plus some spread. I'll put that again. So there's three things here. Largest and safest firm, use the rate they pay on long-term borrowings, local currency plus some spread to account for the default risk of a safe firm. So you use interest rate parity, long-term denominated. Oh, I see. We want to subtract some, because we're trying to estimate the discount rate here. That makes sense. Use interest rate parity from long-term dollar-denominated forward contracts and treasury bond rates, and use local currency ratings usually measured by S&P Global, Fitch, Moody's to form an estimate of default spread on government bonds. Strat. Bonds, subtract the default spread from the expected return on government bonds to arrive at the risk-free rate. Government bonds. Okay.